Hello and welcome back to the HGC North American Playoffs here, where we sit at day number 2, tied up 1-1 between Octalysis here and Team Freedom. What do you guys think going forward here on this series? Because, I mean, I feel like after that last game, suddenly a lot of my questions or my assumptions of what we were going to experience going into the series have kind of gone out the window. I feel like it's a case-by-case, game-by-game, judging on the fly here between the two teams.
First pick seems to be winning out. You pick Battleground, I'll win. I pick Battleground, you win. Apparently first pick, giving up that Medivh, kind of important.
Medivh's pretty good. Kind of good. You know, he's been banned out a while, fan.
Yeah, I mean, they might have to switch their bans up. A lot of the other bans yesterday were just Medivh and Maiev, but we've seen a lot of other bans today, like Garrosh taking the place of the Medivh. So we'll see the evolution of that as the series goes on. But, I mean, I'm happy we got a series today. It could be anyone's game at this point.
So now we got to figure out where we're going for the Battleground. Game number 3, ladies and gentlemen, will take place on Braxis Holdout. Team Freedom, willing to play on it yesterday, going to bring it back here today against Octalysis. Suddenly expecting a lot of, different priority for anybody who didn't keep track of the games yesterday. Things like Murden, Genji, what else do we have, Rise, priority? Even in a Rail World, Morales.
Genji, Dehaka, Junkrat,
yeah,
and an Abathur.
I mean, that was the supportless composition. Supportless, kind of quote unquote. I don't know if we'll still be able to get that here today in terms of, is it going to be banned?
I think it might. I think it might be an early priority.
I think it might just get banned out, straight up. I don't think that is a composition and a strategy. If I am in this playoff situation, I watch Freedom do it. If I'm not confident against that composition, the last thing I want to do is play something that unorthodox.
But showing that yesterday, does Octalysis, they're obviously watching. It's not like they're just casually putting their feet up on a Friday evening. They're just probably like, all right, we're watching. They see what happens. They're like, there's no way that should work. We've got a strategy. So they go to their whiteboard or notepad or whatever you're using on your computer. And you're like, all right, this is what will counter it. Do you just draw up a strategy last night? I mean, your hand has already been shown on the side of Team Freedom.
If you had to do it that late, I would say no.
Why is the music so creepy?
But if by now you do not have an answer, or at least a theoretical, decently practiced answer to a supportless Abathur, even though he's been played in multiple regions in multiple ways, I would definitely say that's a fool me once type situation, and that, okay, that you should be able to handle, or at least have your version to be able to deal with that. But if it is that late, then I know I would not take that risk whatsoever. I'd be like, you know what, just ban it out.
I think what Team Freedom wants to do here is they want to rely on their fundamental understanding of how to play Braxis Holdout versus the specific Abathur no support composition, because like you said, that composition, everyone's already seen it. It's dead obvious in draft. Your first 3 heroes are all really mobile or they have really high sustain, so it's very easy to counter in draft. But if Team Freedom thinks that they have better fundamental understanding of the map than Team Octalysis, that might be why they're going to this map.
Dread said Sylvanas. I'm a big Sylvanas fan. How would you counter it?
I mean, Sylvanas is not bad per se.
Old Sylvanas, by the way, not new Sylvanas.
Old one. I mean, honestly, you counter Sylvanas by killing Sylvanas, and that's pretty easy to do most of the time, so.
I saw the leaderboard the other day, and there's a Sylvanas player that's like top 3, by the way.
That's true, that's true.
Dehaka, Murden, these are the heroes that we had seen. Genji was taken away, however. Genji was one of those key elements to that. You can still obviously pull it out with different elements, but, again, it was Gold Club, where we saw Octalysis. It was their very first event that they competed together with this new roster, and they were the ones that ran the Ragnaros Dehaka on this Battleground and did a 1-3 split as well. They brought the new flavor to it. We'll see if more of that comes out here. I mean, Octalysis is very familiar with how this works.
Yeah, the Genji first pick on Braxis Holdout, holding true. Just once again, the King Roamer. You control the roaming situation with the Genji, not to mention you can instantly boss with the level 7 talent anytime you have an advantage. But the Dehaka Murden, like both of those heroes, have high sustain, but they're also good on their own. So Team Freedom, whether or not they get the Abathur, either way works for them. They're just going very generic, strong heroes on the map.
This was the Battleground yesterday where we actually saw Falstad banned out against Team Freedom by that of Galefor. So does Falstad kind of fit into that same, hey, look, we can have somebody instantly be there and turn this fight? And does he have enough damage and self-sustain to fit into that?
Yeah, that's definitely one possibility. Last year on GFE, we ran Dehaka Falstad on this map a lot because of the double global and the way you can out-rotate your enemies. But I really like what Team Octalysis is doing. They have a plan B right now with Ragnaros. So worst case, even if Team Freedom gets the Zerg wave, it does not matter. Ragnaros basically free clears that if you can get them one bar at the right timing.
We see the Abathur being hovered, maybe be committed to. Also on the note of the Falstad versus the Falstad Dehaka on this map, you guys were not the only one in that time frame that was doing that. Team Dignitas, that was their go-to strategy for the Battleground, was just, we'll global one area, we'll contest the 4 versus 5. If we didn't add anything, well then the Falstad just goes for the 1 versus 1 on the other part of the map, and they just always double abuse, like, we can out-rotate you consistently. The same maybe theory that we see behind those higher priorities like on the Genjis and the Muradins on this map, but just with not your basic kit, just using your global instead to have the impact. The only difference between the two is that one is much longer and a little bit more predictable, but if you are successful, net the same amount of profit here on the map. Malfurion and Phoenix is going to be the rotation from Team Freedom. Now still a lot of mobility even on Phoenix.
If sustain, though, is the name of the game, Dehaka can outlast the Ragnaros generally so long as the bottom is played neutral. Muradin can survive a while. Malfurion, one of the best sustain supports. Phoenix rarely takes actual hero damage outside of a shield in the early skirmishes, has a lot of sustained damage. So right now, Team Freedom, even if they don't rotate, they don't try and mix things up, they have a lot of very good tools at their disposal.
Yeah, the interesting thing to me about this entire draft is the Diablo pickup. Every other pick, there's a pretty good reason of why you would want it on Braxis. But why do they want a Diablo in the 2-3 on Braxis? I don't see any inherent synergies, and Diablo is very much a hero that can scale. Now granted, they picked the Ragnaros, so they're feeling confident that they can make it to that late game where Diablo becomes a raid boss, but it's a little bit interesting. I'm not sure what that hero specifically is for in this draft.
Kharazim sustain a little bit different. Obviously, you can go Earth Ally at level 4 to deal with the auto attacks against Phoenix. You also have a couple of other options. There is the healing one, basically like a healing totem that he has. I don't normally see that too often. It's very rare that that actually comes out.
And this is all because they have the plan B in the Ragnaros. Junkrat also has really good wave clear. The Tire basically one-shots the Hydras, and the Hydras are the backbone of the Zerg wave. If you get rid of them, the Zerg wave does not push. So, you know, they can get away with a weaker healer here because at the end of the day, they're not going to be too upset even when they lose the Zerg.
Last pick into that Maiev for Team Freedom.
Made it quite a ways. Generally, obviously, we've seen a high priority on the Maiev. We saw it a high priority yesterday. But again, when you lack that wave clear, that'll be something. Again, we talk about the plan B option. Phoenix does have the splash auto attacks, but I don't know how I feel wave clear-wise when I look at a Phoenix Maiev. If you lose the 100-0 Zerg wave, where's your defense? It's nowhere near as strong to me as the Junkrat Ragnaros, so the plan B option, to me, not as strong.
Yeah, so it's the classic, you know, Team Freedom has the composition which should not lose the Shrines, period, because they are so much stronger early game. They have a better healer, more sustain. But if they do, they have no backup plan, so we're going to see how that pans out.
It's going to be interesting. From beginning to end, I feel like this draft has been pretty cool on how it unfolded between the two teams. The one pick that I like the most out of, you know, the side of Octalysis is that Kharazim. I think that it's actually subtly going to gain them a lot when it comes to how they want to approach those shrines, because one of the best answers to that kind of fluid mobility is having at least enough individual 1 versus 1ers and 2 versus 2ers that can win those trades. Kharazim is the only support who caters to that playstyle other than Uther, and Uther does it only by saving his hyper carry. So I really like that threat that it provides, and it might make those rotations a little bit more difficult here on the side of Team Freedom. Either way, I mean, the Plan B conversation is very much a concern that has to be lingering here for Freedom, though, if they do not, you know, set the tone in this game.
If it wasn't for the success that I saw Akaface have with Insight, I wouldn't even bring it up. But this is one of the battlegrounds where I'm like, if you're talking about sustain, Insight, Iron Fist, when you go in, it hits, right? It hits hard. But after what I saw Akaface do with it multiple times this year, it kind of makes me wonder, is that a thing? But we'll get the Iron Fist, stick to the norm.
I really struggle with that conversation about Insight versus Transcendence versus Iron Fist because there has been multiple, kind of iterations, especially when looking at Transcendence. It's
even
been
recently.
the most adjusted one, yeah. Now it's actually back to when I played support. Transcendence is the same exact scaling as it used to be, but Iron Fist and Transcendence are miles better than it ever was. And when do you do, which kind of trade-off between the two? I will say, now that Transcendence is legendary, I have a hard time looking at Insight in any case and going, that's worth it. But I mean, it definitely amplifies your individual sustain and utility across the board on the character. And even though Iron Fist is oftentimes the talent we look at and, say he provides a lot of threat, with that Insight, it's nothing to laugh at with, his Fists of Fury, how much damage he's able to put out there with getting that CDR onto those targets. Just need typically a good punching bag, which there aren't too many punching bags on Freedom's composition. They've got a lot of crowd control to make Collusion kind of second guess himself here. Or excuse me, Buds.
Team Freedom already going off to start their camp up at the top right. We'll see how much impact that has here in a moment as they committed all 4 members. And it looks like Octalis is going to respond in kind as that will be pushing the opposite lane. Lutano, let's see if he throws a little bit of a sniffer out there. He does. He's coming in for a fight.
Stormbolt ends up hitting the objective, though, so not going to set up the tether kill potential. Capabilities maybe there for Freedom. Just going to go ahead and take the camp and back out here. Goku did do his best to be able to obtain the top objective, but because the double camp was taken now, this is definitely percentage gained here for Team Freedom over the next while.
This is a really interesting spot. How does Octalis now respond? Generally, you could say that, having camps pushing for both teams would kind of keep things neutral, but now they don't have that. Diablo very low on souls in the beginning. Justin does get a heal, but he's not going to get another, and that's going to be the first fall of Diablo as the channel continues here. Again, you have Ragnaros Dread, but getting this early of a control.
Yeah, it's devastating. There is no hero in the game that you can look at and be like, oh, wait, Cure has no escape. I mean, he's just dead. No way out of that one.
Yeah, the pathing there, you can zip over kind of the corner of it, but you cannot zip directly through if the range isn't there.
Yeah, you have to be able to break over a specific percentage of the non-passable terrain before that's acceptable.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
It's beyond unfortunate. It's a devastating setback because the rotations and the setback with the double camp decision-making on side of Freedom, that was proactive and solid play, but Freedom should have been able to respond proper, but now staggering another death on top of that, back-to-back, over 100% Zerg Rush. This game is very much kind of getting out of control, maybe a bit faster than it should have, but there's punishment here. Good flip over from Justin. Sets up the first reset here for Cure.
They salvaged a lot because Ragnaros could have easily committed a lot of resources to that teamfight Dread, instead focused it entirely on the Zerg Wave, and I think that was a big part of why they are now getting to safety. Yoda, he's taking some damage there. Cure going to be able to retreat back, unable to confirm the kill, but this safety, both turrets still stand. They're not long. If they take any bit of damage, they'll just fall. But the fact that that was what they managed to hold is very impressive.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like, if anything, I look at Freedom and go like, yeah, maybe we need to reconsider how we approach that, kind of siege opportunity there, because the 100-0 that early on, even with the Ragnaros, I feel like maybe shouldn't be the case, because even when you typically see Ragnaros compositions in this and you say, well, they're just going to Molten Core, then you go, well, then push the other side. If he's going to buy all the time in the world, I've got a free 5 versus 4, and I bought a long cooldown passive. There are definitely ways to be able to play around it, especially at earlier stages like we're currently kind of residing in. But Freedom did gain something. Eventually that experience is going to fall into their favor. It's just whether or not it's going to fall in a time frame that it becomes significant or actually, impactful.
Well, the other thing about that to consider is there's a lot of melee, and their best siege was Phoenix in the bot lane, and you're going against the Diablo. You walk up to that wall, you're flipped over into that Molten Core, not a place where anybody wants to be. So, they opted for an alternative strategy that didn't quite pay off. And now Octalis is finding their way back in. So the fact, again, salvaging that much, again, it should fall here pretty quickly. And there's that experience you were talking about as it does come online and get them level 7.
Genji kind of, dancing here on the bottom half of the map, but nothing going to be gained. Genji doesn't typically really have much to do other than catching and stalling rotations until the objective itself is going to spawn on a map like this. We are hitting the 7 mark, and this is where we'll see the talent adjustment that we saw Fan talking about a little bit before. That's with the CDR on the deflect, and it functions with the actual boss mechanic for anybody at home who doesn't know that, and it makes it to where, wow, great tether setup there onto Goku.
I just barely made it.
But there's punishment. Good job there from Justin getting the Shadow Charge back. I was just going to say, it deflects into your opponents, and it becomes extremely easy to not only kill them, but also the boss at the same time.
A few highlights have been made with that amount of play. There's the Iron Fist getting a tremendous amount of damage onto Lutano. Cure trying to follow up on that, but Buds, he's trying to retreat. Moonfire. Oh, Justine. He's still trying to land it. I mean, Justine and Buds, they're like peanut butter and jelly, man. They do not separate. Justine, there's no way he makes it out alive without that just literally perfect play there by Justine.
Yeah, really good job there. Able to keep the team alive. Transition towards the top half of the map, though, for Team Freedom, as they have 38% and counting. Goku will be able to stall that out, stop the bleeding here, but Freedom, once again, eking ahead when it comes to the percentage. And though that first one didn't net that much, eventually one of these is going to gain quite a bit here. No matter, you know, that's one of the few times when you have that composition where you go, do I bank on getting the objective or dealing with it well? Dealing with it well is essentially asking for a lot of, you know, kind of consistent variables to line up for you. And eventually, typically the team that spams the objective with that big of strength over and over again, eventually kind of finds the, you know, chink in the armor.
Zogrug being tossed around. The concussion mine also going to buy a little bit of time. Goku will start the channel, but I don't think they can hold here in the top lane. So no more channel percentages. You can also see on the mini map Phoenix making his way down. That's an interesting matchup, one that I feel Phoenix definitely should win. So we'll see how long Goku opts to try and hold here. You just kind of get poked down. Yoda, however, no shield. Gonna take a few seconds.
There you go. He's going to beep it back up. And that allows for the heavy trade. Genji is going to make the rotation down, though, to trade into him. And suddenly a lot more respect is given in the bottom lane, especially knowing that Team Freedom's got a lot more members to kind of join in here, pick up this percentage. Octalysis did respawn with the top half, though, so nothing going to be gained here between the teams. It's really, in this downtime, you can, you know, maybe take a pit stop and pick up these camps, and that buys a small window of opportunity like we see on maps like kind of Dragonshire function in that manner, where you look to capitalize on that window. But I don't feel like it's going to be big enough or significant enough really for either team. It's just who makes the first misstep in these transitions.
Diablo comes down, but without the level 10, they have no form of initiation. Instead, they're going to concede that camp again. Riptire being picked up. Palm here, no 7-sided strike, but now this camp pushing down the bottom will rip through one tire here, one turret. Got Riptire on the mine. Ragnaros contemplating Lava Wave, Dreadnought. I feel like, look, if you get in a team fight and you know you can win, you rip it, right? But if something goes wrong and you need a backup option, you go from plan B to plan C.
Yeah.
When you look at Lava Wave.
Well, let's look at the.
Can we call it plan T?
Let's look at the.
For Trixler?
Yeah. Let's look at the team fight and how it unfolds without Sulfura Smash, which is already the selection. I was gonna say, yeah, it doesn't work out that well, especially into a Malfurion who typically is really weak into that amount of burst and lockdown capabilities with the Genji who wants the reset. I was gonna say I don't disagree with you with the theory, you know, in the Plan B sense, but when looking at can we get a kill in the first place, probably not.
Plan T.
Plan T.
Right now, few more percentage points over to Team Octalysis, but Zugrug and team continuing to hold on to points. There's going to be the flip over. Zugrug does have the Dwarf Toss out. Concussion Mine not able to land. Nature's Cure has been used. Lutano, he's got the tether onto Dainsky, but no follow-up right now. Instead, Cure, he's going to move over as Dahaka ended up going down to help deal with the Ragnaros. Isolation, he's going to get the drag.
Are they going to get a kill? Yoda has the warp. He's going to go ahead and lock that down. Not even necessary.
No.
You know what? Hang the wrist. That was flashy. Give this guy some brownie points because that was impressive. You know, Sulfura Smash coming down, and he's just like, I got it. Here's the warp over. That's not mechanically. It just looks good.
Now I want brownies, but now Yoda's dealing with Cure on top. See who wins this trade. That's generally going to be the Phoenix. Phoenix incredibly strong in that trade. The amount of sustain that they continue to have, and now all of a sudden we're looking at another Zerg wave coming in as Goku will make his way down here on Ragnaros. I'm curious if they'll be willing to use that on the fort here, because that's the lurking part right there. Using it on the fort with no fort wall, generally a bit more risky because you're susceptible to that die.
Yep, and it's going to be dropped here. The Molten Core. Look at that
Planet Cracker on the Molten Core.
Not going to get you any part of that one. Yoda getting rid of that, and now there's a Zerg Rush moving in with no Molten Core. The Warden's Cage, locks down for a bit longer, but Dainsky able to make it out here. The fort will end up lying victim towards Team Freedom as they're now significantly winning this race to 13. How much more can they make happen here with this composition?
All right, straight up. I said this the other day. kind of jokingly, I think it might have been last week, I was talking about Planet Crackers, a
Oh, yeah.
pseudo lava wave.
Yeah.
I guess if you end up losing a Zerg wave, that is your plan B as Planet Cracker, but to have that readily available for a Molten Core makes so much sense. Here, Nasmus. That's what he's saying, but it's like, wait a minute. Justine's like, hold on, I think I got debated.
Stormbolt after. A lot of damage on Adjusting. They hit him with the isolation. I mean, Justing literally hasn't been able to control his character. Now, for the first time, pops out the Q, gets the Shadow Charge out, and will escape there. Bud's actually getting tethered back. He has no Radiant Dash, only one now, so Furious Smash gets dropped and ends up coming off cooldown, and he makes it out there. But for a moment, that was a dashless support and a absolutely out of position kind of awkward moment there. They do end up holding their own, though, and Freedom still winning this race 13, or still winning with this 13.
Yeah, the composition and the play so far of Lutano has been really, really good. And, you know, it was a big part for me is talking about how I needed Yoda to be a little bit more stepping up. And I think he's done that in the sense that, you know, Maiev is generally more the flex hero or your melee. The fact that you have what you would consider to be your best assassin, your best carry on that backline in Lutano playing the setup role instead of that killer assassin role was a concern for me. But so far, I am digging Yoda's play today, Dreadnought.
I agree, and how much value he's been able to get out of the adjustment within the build on Phoenix has been pretty impressive here. Hold up, though. Justing went in with the Shadow Charge. Goku falling low. Planet Cracker's going to go ahead and rip through there as APOC ends up landing, but Goku is already dead. Reset number one here, or attempt that for Goku or Kier as he moved through. Team Freedom dominantly winning this fight, but not necessarily the most synergistic approach.
You could see, though, the tether back in. Justin still trying to make the play. Lutano, he's trying to get out alive. Cure going in. We'll see if he's got it. He does have...
Oh my.
Maiev fell, but they're trading. I was going to say, he does have flow like water.
Buds definitely should not have been able to get hit by that drag there in that type of situation. Akarazim and the defense would not really be able to make up for that much. That in mind, you know, the body that was blocking it beforehand just barely be able to move out of the picture just within time. 20 seconds out. Freedom rounding their 16 talent tiers. This is likely going to be another Zerg rush in their favor, J-How.
It's just working out way too well. Again, Molten Core still always going to be that backup option. Diablo does potentially get stronger. Luckily, he hasn't died, so he's still sitting on a lot of souls. Still very impactful in these fights. Almost fell in that last one. As you said, Dread, level 16 does have the option for Genji to do extra deflect damage if you feel you need to get desperate and start to force these boss fights and see if Team Freedom takes that bait. Sometimes you've got to be willing to concede that because the fear of that deflect with that 7-16 combo. And if things really get wild, level 20 is even more terrifying. That's more of your quick match special, but it could potentially come out. Oh, collusion.
Yeah, Octalis is really desperate to force that fight pre-16, and they're trying to do that through any way they can with this transition through. Dansky, I thought for a moment with that nade, might be looking to maybe start that boss. He's actually going to get caught out in rotation. Nasmus is going to be the focus for now. Yoda's there. He tunnels down. Buys a bit of time. Shadow Charge over, so Furious Smash drops. Nasmus gives reset one there to Cure as the Warden's Cage ends up dropping. Planet Cracker sent through. Twilight Dream goes off. Goku gets the palm, but it is not. Oh my gosh, last second. He actually gets proc. Lutano, though, turns around, gives him a fan of knives, says, not worried about that one. Killed you once, I'll kill you again.
And now all of a sudden we're going to see Team Freedom trying to continue to make plays. Buds does get the jump target there courtesy of Cure, but now Team Freedom will instantly rotate to that top, try and get that second channel, get any type of percentage that they can, while the rest of Octalysis is dealing with that camp. They also need to replenish those health bars because they took a significant amount of damage. Lutano, he's going to hang out just a little bit. Octalysis has to get on one of these.
Murden is anchoring over bottom. Phoenix has got the scout on the top half if things get a little bit wild. Damage here now onto Zugrug.
Tahaka's got the tongue. It's going to be onto Diablo. They did have that global, but now Justin continues to bounce around. Zugrug forces out the Avatar. The concussion mine does buy a little bit of time. Buds just out of range there. There's going to be the Stormbolt landing onto Justin. So far, nothing but fireworks and not a lot of kills, but it might come here.
Oh my gosh, the tether damage. I thought for sure they might need even the gap closer to pull him back there, but the damage alone was enough there on Lutano. Here it is, another 100% Zerg rush for Team Freedom. And you know, last time we saw the Molten Core attempt, this time it's not even an option. And even if it was, Planet Cracker has dealt with it so very effectively. I think Team Freedom might be able to end this game right here.
It's a high probability. Riptire is going to buy a little bit of time.
Interesting choice.
I think he's trying to maybe blindly hit the Junkrat with that.
Yeah, and get the kill onto the Junkrat, so he had to burn it. But the fact that he would be willing to use that cooldown in this situation, granted, he does have, you know, the 16 to be able to get the CDR even on his heroic.
Well, now Molten Core, see if they commit to it. I don't think this keep is saved, but he's going to try. I think they might actually. Here comes the Molten Core. Justin forcing out a little bit of response. I think they might have defensed it here.
They did end up holding off. Not even a keep gained here for Team Freedom. I did not think there was any world that would not have been at least a keep out of those two.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, yes, they only have a backliner of a Phoenix, but it does feel like that would have been enough in that type of situation. Either way, Octalis has got to be, you know, breathing easy now, and the fact that they do not have to worry about catapult pressure on one half of the map, they still are close enough to reliably get the same talent tier skirmish before the next beacon phase.
No shenanigans at 16, instead getting the extra damage. Of course, when you go flow like water, try and get those swift blades back to back. See if you can get that nice root split down if locked in Diablo.
Yeah, but look at that Warden's Cage locking down those members. APOC comes in. Iceblock is going to buy time now for Collusion. His Cure still unable to find his reset. He goes in with the Dragon Blade. A lot of damage there onto Octalis. Twilight Dream goes in. The Palm is there, but look at that Tether. 4-man Tether pulling back all of Octalis's Team Freedom. Wipe the floor here. Diablo will end up making it back with the souls, but they waste no time and march to the keep.
Planet Cracker value right there. Now the keep's going to go down, and it's a matter of will the core follow next. Dansky trying to poke back, trying to keep him alive. Justin has no souls. He is very vulnerable to death now. See if right now Octalis is still 15 seconds away, and I think Team Freedom might be going up 2-1 here, so I don't know if it's going to be enough.
Shielding on the core, still there, 7 seconds before Ragnaros spawns. Dansky wailing away with those grenades. They seem like the focus is going to be onto Yoda. 70%. Members now spawning as Diablo ends up dropping Yoda. Clean shot there with Dansky and friends. Octalis get members back, but in losing 2, they end up losing the game as well. Freedom find themselves 1 game away from moving on to tomorrow and taking on Heroes Hearth Esports.
This Team Freedom that has shown up this weekend, Dreadnought, you just got to ask yourself, where have you been since Clash? I mean, every single game, it doesn't matter, you know, even when they lose, they still look like they're very much a competitive team. And the fact that, you know, they kind of went to sleep for a little bit, kind of hung out for a little while, rediscovered themselves, and now they find themselves up 2-1. I am impressed so far.
I'm in the same boat. That's why a little bit of what I was hinting at after game number 2 is just kind of going like, you know, a lot of my assumptions of what I expected to see from both of these teams is not kind of unfolding so far today. And now Team Freedom, they look like favored. They look like this is their series to lose there, fan.
Yeah, I saw the change in that game. It was level 12 to 13. It was the Planet Cracker onto the Molten Core. That's when I saw the whole atmosphere of Team Freedom shift, because they usually play really passive, right? They don't really play confidently. At that moment, right when they hit 13, right when they made that play, I saw their whole team. They started playing confidently. They look like the old Freedom from that moment onward. And if I was Octalis, I would not be happy about that. They need to really bring their A game next game if they want to survive.
Yeah, it is, man, it is going to be very, very difficult there. But, you know, before we get more into this here, ladies and gentlemen, if, you know, you're a Heroes of the Storm fan, you guys might want to check out Heroes of the Dorm, as we do have our Heroic 4 coming up on Saturday, May 12th at the Blizzard Arena, starting at 1 p.m. PST. So make sure that you guys tune into that. Fan himself, you know, one of the the proud victors of Heroes of the Dorm. You want to shed some light on, you know, your time there?
Yeah, I mean, it was the tournament, the first tournament win that I've ever gotten. It was the tournament that basically propelled me into the pro scene, gave me the confidence that I needed to kind of go into the pro scene and go from there. So it was awesome. It's a huge tournament, and I'll be there. If you guys are there, make sure to come say hi.
And, you know, Finn is not the only one. That is not an outlier case. We got Mike Udall and Cure as well. We're 2 members that ended up playing through Dorm and now play competitively.
I think if we go back in time, maybe me and you.
We start up a Dorm team?
I mean, if we go back in time, Sylvanas was still OP.
Okay, I'm done with this conversation now. At first, it seemed realistic.
You could
maybe
support me in my bad habits.
I only support players that I, you know, maybe think can carry me if I support them well enough. Anyways.
Oh, I will carry you all day on Sylv. All day.
Fan, how do you feel now that you've been thrown
Doesn't matter. I think we got something else going on next. Look, Kentucky's in there in the Heroic Four.
Yeah.
I'm not a UK fan, but I will root for the home state.
For anybody who didn't know, Jay How's a sweet Southern Kentucky boy here.
Yeah.
We got the battleground for game number 4, ladies and gentlemen.